Today, we're diving into something deeply personal. It's like stepping into the ultimate protagonist's journey, a cinematic transformation from the safety of everything you know straight into the terrifying, but honestly exhilarating unknown. This isn't just a talk about money or careers. It's about that exact moment you wake up and realize the life you were handed, it might not actually be the life you were meant to live. I want you to really think back to how you grew up, because for so many of us, our parents did everything right. They worked incredibly hard, paid the bills, stayed out of debt. But there was always this constant, unspoken tension in the air. You probably grew up in a house where survival wasn't exactly the immediate problem, like there was food in the fridge, the light stayed on, but beneath that stability was just this relentless worry. Your parents probably talked about money constantly, and not because they loved it, but out of sheer anxiety. The mortgage, the car payment, the promotion that mysteriously never came. Literally every problem traced right back to money. And because you had something, that underlying struggle was actually incredibly hard to recognize. You see, the middle class is kind of strange that way. It's this weird state of being just comfortable enough to keep moving forward, but uncomfortable enough to keep you perpetually worried. It means you weren't quite poor enough to panic, but you were never rich enough to just relax. You spend your entire life sprinting on a treadmill, and somehow you literally never feel like you're getting ahead. Looking back, you start to realize something pretty wild. The biggest inheritance your parents gave you wasn't actually their work ethic. It was their worldview. It was this absolute, unquestioned belief that security meant blindly following a set of instructions. And here is that traditional script we were all handed. Step 1, study hard. Step 2, get a degree. Step 3, find a stable job. And step 4, well, retire someday. For years, you just accepted this without a second thought, because honestly, questioning it felt dangerous. Everyone around you, your teachers, relatives, neighbors, they all handed you this exact same map, but nobody ever stopped to ask, does this map actually lead to freedom? Now, what's really interesting about the slide is that glaring contrast. It's what happens when you finally experience that glitch in the matrix. It usually starts quietly. You just start noticing people who clearly aren't following the script. We're talking creators, investors, builders. They're out there taking risks, creating massive value, and their main goal is to own their time. And somehow, against literally everything you were taught, they seem to be winning. They are just playing a completely different game. And that leads us to a massive question. If the traditional path is so incredibly reliable, why are the people following it stressed out all the time? Just let that sink in for a second. Because once that doubt enters your mind, it's pretty much impossible to ignore. You can't unsee the exhausted faces on the morning commute. You can't ignore the people literally counting down the hours until Friday, living only for the weekends, basically surviving instead of actually building a life. And when you start exploring these thoughts privately, deep down, you know exactly how people are going to react. They'll tell you to be realistic. Don't take unnecessary risks. Just focus on your career. Look, these words from well-meaning friends or, your terribly practical uncle, they sound so incredibly responsible. They genuinely want you to be safe. But here's the kicker. They aren't describing a floor of possibility to stand on. They are describing a ceiling of safety that just keeps you boxed in. This right here is the moment of clarity. You suddenly realize that fear and wisdom can sound exactly the same. And realizing this, it's the very first crack in your identity. It forces you to accept a really heavy, profound truth. If you reject the script you were handed, you are now entirely, 100% responsible for writing your own. Nobody else is coming to save you. Section 1. The double life. The invisible struggle. This brings us to what honestly feels like a grueling, cinematic training arc. On the outside, nothing changes. You still show up to work, you still smile, but on the inside, you're living a total double life. You've seen a bigger world now, and you can no longer fit comfortably inside the smaller one, so you just start working quietly in the shadows. Okay, let's dive into this, because this shift in mindset is where the real battle happens. First, you start studying ordinary people making extraordinary decisions. Second, you realize true wealth comes from thinking differently. But the most terrifying part, accepting that freedom absolutely requires uncertainty. You have to take 100% responsibility for your own future. See, most people don't actually want freedom. They just want guaranteed success. Stepping out on your own means totally sacrificing those guarantees. It's terrifying, yeah, but man, it is electric. And this invisible work builds agonizingly over time. I mean, weeks pass and your first idea fails. Months turn into years and you have almost nothing to show for it as your second and third ideas tank. You are enduring this painful passage of time, investing literally every spare hour into something entirely uncertain. And all the while, you're watching your friends move ahead on the traditional path, getting new jobs, new cars, new apartments. Honestly, nobody talks about this stage. This is the stage where your effort feels entirely invisible, where your dreams look utterly delusional to the outside world, and where quitting seems like the most logical thing you could possibly do. The self-doubt is just overwhelming. You sit there in the dark, questioning if your ambition is really just some toxic form of arrogance. You start to wonder, maybe everyone else was right all along. But right when you are on the brink of giving up, you remember something absolutely crucial. The exact same people who relentlessly warned you about the risks of stepping off the path, they were also living with profound regret. And regret is a risk too. This is the profound thought that keeps you anchored. You keep going, not because you have some rock-solid confidence or evidence that you'll succeed, but simply because you are absolutely committed. Section 2. The turning point. Money without permission. Then, one day, it happens. The very first breakthrough. It might be incredibly small financially, like an amount most people wouldn't even notice, but to you, it proves the dream is real. Money has finally appeared without permission. Not from a boss, not from a paycheck, but from you. And this brilliantly illustrates the life-changing paradigm shift. Most people spend their entire lives believing income only comes from labor, trading your precious time for a paycheck. But you've just discovered income from ownership. You created value, and that value generated income. It's like a giant puzzle finally clicking into place. Wealth isn't some secret reserved for special people. It's something you actively build, decision by decision. And once you have that proof, reality becomes completely addictive. As your momentum builds, the entire way you view the world fundamentally rewires itself. You stop asking the question that traps consumers in a reactive mindset of survival and limitation. How much does it cost? Instead, you start asking this: how much value can it create? This right here is the exact psychological shift that separates the builders from the consumers. You start seeing massive opportunities where everyone else only sees obstacles. You're looking at the exact same city, the exact same streets, but with a completely transformed perspective. Now, I want to be real with you. This transformation doesn't come without a cost. As you grow, you naturally create distance from your old life. The hard, sometimes painful truth is that your success will inevitably challenge the excuses of the people around you. And people rarely enjoy having their limitations exposed. It can be a lonely reality. You want everyone to understand and come with you, but you eventually learn that not everyone is supposed to travel the same path. Some people are only meant to be in your life for a season, and that's okay. Section 3. The Real Escape. Redefining reality. Then, one morning, you wake up and notice that the heavy, generational anxiety that literally followed your family for decades has finally begun to lift. You have engineered the real escape. You've completely redefined reality. So, the crucial point is this: you finally understand what wealth actually is. It was literally never about luxury cars or the flashy numbers in a bank account. Money was simply the tool. True wealth is having absolute control over your time, your energy, and your future. Wealth gives you options, and options are freedom. Having options means you no longer have to say yes to every single opportunity just to survive. You don't have to tolerate situations or bosses that drain you. You have gained the incredible ability to live your life intentionally, rather than just reacting to whatever the world decides to throw at you. And then the whole shebang just clicks. The middle class was never just an income level on a tax bracket. No, it was a mindset, a belief system. It was an invisible ceiling placed over your head from the exact moment you were born. And the very day you started questioning that invisible ceiling, that was the day your actual escape began. The middle class didn't trap you with poverty, it trapped you with comfort, and comfort is so much harder to escape. So the only question left to ask yourself is, are you finally ready to open the cage?